I just walk in the argument too one-way, why you mad? Girl, why you was sick? I do not want that. Came home to you only, you stuck like glue. If I caught that Hellcat, girl, you get one too. For me and you, I want you, I love you. Can I touch you? I rub, let me love you. Put my dreams to the side only cause I trust you. Girl, I trust you, I love you, won't judge you.
What's going on? SEVelocity back with a new week of content and new things to talk about in the football and basketball realm for today. Sean, would you like to say hello to the people?
What's going on, everyone? Another week of me trying to learn football. I'm still in the phase where I feel like an idiot watching it, constantly asking effing questions, but I'm hanging in there. Well, on the bright side, in 3 weeks, the NBA season starts back, and your boy's been already looking at tickets to purchase.
Yes. Must be nice to have reasonably priced tickets because Madison Square Garden costs $400 to watch a team get blown out for no reason, with almost little to no talent on it.
Yep.
All right, so we'll start, as traditional for this season and the current fall. We'll talk football first, and we'll go into basketball as we move forward. Couple awful games today, a couple good ones. We'll start with the game of the week, which was the Rams versus the Buccaneers. Um, Tom Brady versus probably the best defense in the NFL, or most talented in Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. Rams got the win, 34-24. I think a few people were shocked about that. We do the Excel spreadsheet with all the football picks, and most people pick the Bucks. I picked the Rams. Just saying. Tom Brady didn't play bad. I mean, he had over 400 passing yards and no interceptions and a touchdown. But Matt Stafford, that's my fantasy quarterback. 4 touchdowns today. Played very well. Good overall game. I enjoyed it. A lot going on. Two really good coaches too. Some things to point out. Buccaneers didn't really run the ball well. They rushed for a combined 13 times and had 30 rushing yards. Get this, their leading rusher for the Bucks, Tom Brady, 14 rushing yards. So that tells you a lot. On the other side, the Rams, former Patriots running back Sonny Michel had 70 rushing yards, but Cooper Kupp and Deshaun Jackson were the people to talk about. 120 receiving yards for Jackson and a long touchdown, 75-yard touchdown. Cooper Kupp had 9 receptions, 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's been on fire. Probably the best receiver so far in the league today, statistically. He's been all over the place. Great game. Nothing else to say. I really enjoyed it. Top tier game. So I'm probably going to just go through these as quick as I can without, trying to mumble. And then I'll probably rant on a few of them, like the Vikings and the Seahawks. You could be like the Seahawks where you look good in your first 2 weeks. You play the Colts, you barely lose to the Titans, you beat the Colts. And then you go face Minnesota, who has been abysmal all season, hasn't looked good. And then you lose to Minnesota 30-17. Spectacular. That made me really happy, especially when I picked Seattle to win. Russell Wilson did all right. Not too bad. They just couldn't move the ball very much. Kirk Cousins did his Kirk Cousins thing where he's, either throws 3 picks in a game and has no passing touchdowns, or he's on fire. Had 3 touchdowns, only 8 incompletions, 300 passing yards today. So he was on fire. No Dalvin Cook either. Their top tier running back. Had Madison in, and Justin Jefferson played well too for them at wide receiver. So not a bad game. Not much to talk about. I mean, there's not much I could really add to that other than just saying the score. Some good stuff. Jets versus Broncos, my favorite. All right, as a Jets fan, I already knew we were losing this game. Listen, I picked the
New
Broncos to
York,
win.
New York.
Yeah, I knew the way that this game was gonna go. My thing is, I would have loved to see at least 1 touchdown or a field goal. Nope. So probably the best part was watching the beginning of the game with my grandfather and seeing them go to kick a field goal, 55-yard field goal to a long one. And he drills it, the Jets. And then there's a false start on the offense. So we have to move back 5 yards and punt. Woo! Love that. So top tier. Jets got destroyed. Zach Wilson did not look good. Threw 2 picks. The running game looked awful. Defense looked okay, but, gave up 26 points. Teddy Bridgewater on the other side for the Broncos looked perfect. Played very well. He's had the highest completion percentage out of any QB in the NFL so far this year. I think it was like 78%, which is really good. And he also has, I think he's top 5 in yards per attempt. So he's been attempting long passes too. It's not just throwing it off to someone 2 feet in front of him. So he's looked good. Something worth noting. They didn't have Jerry Jeudy today, but Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton picked up the slack. Great game for them, not for me. Nothing else I could really say. Jets fall to 0-3. Broncos are 3-0. So, good start for them. There's, I think, 5 3-0 teams left. Also, quick update, because this is being filmed Sunday evening. The Raiders-Dolphins game just concluded. They were in overtime. Raiders scored a field goal, then the Dolphins scored a field goal. Raiders scored a field goal in the last few seconds of the game, so Raiders win. They moved to 3-0 as well. They've had a couple tough games. They've beaten some good teams. So let's talk about this for a second, because I know you've seen one of these games too. So they beat the Steelers, legitimate team. We're going to talk about them. They lost to the Bengals, which was a little bit rough. But they beat the Steelers, they beat the Dolphins, and they beat the Ravens to start the season. So they aren't beating garbage teams. They're beating pretty good teams. So that's something to be impressed about. I know the Dolphins had a backup in Jacoby Brissett, but he's not a bad backup. He looks good. Tua's going to be out for 3 or 4 more weeks, I believe. He's on injured reserve. All right, so that was a good game. Raiders have looked really good. Derek Carr specifically is on a path to try to win MVP. I know he probably won't get voted because it's usually only the big names like Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers. But statistically, he's looked great. He had 2 touchdowns, 1 interception today. And he's starting to... the thing is, that offensive line's performing really well. No one's talking about it. They had 3 different running backs. Josh Jacobs, who's their primary running back, who was hurt. Kenyon Drake, who's their backup, who's pretty good. And then Peyton Barber, who's a pretty good backup too. The backup, the third-string backup, Peyton Barber, had 110 rushing yards today. So that tells you a lot. He might have played well, but the offensive line cleared a lot of space for him. So that's worth noting. Really good performance overall by the Raiders. They have a sneaky good team and a lot of good players that are playing at their top right now. So good to see that. I like John Gruden. Great coach. And on to the next game. Let's talk about the game that you saw today. You got to see the wonderful Chiefs versus Chargers game. Spectacular upset. Pat Mahomes and company lose in Kansas City. It's hard to win there for any away team. It's one of the loudest stadiums, Arrowhead Stadium, one of the loudest stadiums in the league. Chargers come in with second-year player Justin Herbert, throws 4 touchdowns. He had 13 incompletions, but he was 25 of 38. Had like 125 rating out of 158, which is really good. Good support from Austin Eckler running and receiving. And then Mike Williams, who's been a absolute massive target for him. But now let's talk about the Chiefs. And I know you were very close up watching the Chiefs. And I think me and you can both agree that we've seen the Chiefs probably all 3 weeks, because it's usually the most featured game. Everyone wants to watch Pat Mahomes. This is probably the sloppiest game I've seen him play in the last year and a half, outside of maybe the Super Bowl, because they looked awful in the Super Bowl, but they didn't have any protection for Pat Mahomes. Mahomes threw 2 interceptions, which is rare. He doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. And then there was also 2 fumbles. So they had 4 turnovers, which is a great way to lose a game. And the more turnovers you get, the more you're keeping that defense on the field. And the longer you keep the defense on the field, the more tired they are, and the more they're going to blow coverage and lose the game. So, domino effect. They they let their defense down, and they were on the field pretty much constantly, and the Chargers ripped them apart for it. I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the running back, played well, 100 rushing yards, but that fumble's a killer, and he's had a fumble the week before too that cost him the game against the Ravens. So the Chiefs are actually 1-2 to start the season. Pretty wild to think of, even though they've looked great for the most part outside of this game. They look good. They just keep losing close games. They just gotta get rid of the sloppy turnovers. Interesting week though. Kelsey looked good too. You want to add anything?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I would, due to my lack of knowledge of football, I tuning into that game, I only really knew of players on the Chiefs team, Mahomes, Kelsey, and Tyreek Hill. So I just assumed going in that it's gonna be the usual. Many people pick them to be among the favorites to get to the Super Bowl and make a lot of noise in the postseason. I'm not really sure about the Chargers, but um, as I was watching this game in the first quarter, I was very stunned when I saw that
It's
the
14-0,
Chargers went
right?
up 14-0. Yeah, 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, and I was starting to bite my nails a little bit. That came coming into the third, like in the second half, the Chiefs just started to take charge a bit.
Chiefs started playing
Um,
like the
y-
Chiefs.
yeah, like they tied it up, but then the Chargers they just pulled away again.
Yeah, they just maintained the lead, and I was impressed because I think the Chargers are a good team, but they're not. You know, I don't think they're a top 10 team by any means. So, but they usually have a really good game plan where they can. You'll see it when you go into any Chargers game. It's really unique, and I think his name's Brandon Staley. Is their coach. He was the Rams defensive coordinator. He's a very big preparation guy. He likes to scout and he likes to watch film. So when you watch the games, you'll see that he prepares differently for each team. Like and that obviously that's a normal thing in the NFL, but he keeps a lot of his games super close, no matter where it is and who it's against. He'll have different plays for the Chiefs, different plays for the yeah, they played Washington, and I forgot who they beat last week. But either way, it's really entertaining to watch because he was a defensive coordinator too. So he's coming up with a lot of these defensive plays that caused the 4 turnovers versus the Chiefs. So that's impressive to force 4 turnovers from them. Good game though. I want to mention too that division. So in that division is the Raiders, Chiefs, Broncos, and Chargers. Right? So those 4 teams. The Broncos are 3-0. The Raiders are 3-0. The Chargers are 2-1, and Kansas City's 1-2. So Kansas City right now is the worst team in the division, record-wise. You have 2 3-0 teams and 1 2-1, and they're 1-2. So that's interesting to watch. They'll bounce back, I'm sure. They'll be making the playoffs, but it's an interesting start. And they're going to be playing the Eagles next Sunday at 1:00. So I'm sure you're going to be watching them again.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
We will see. I think that's when they start to take out all their anger on a team. So going on to the next game. This is a game that I really want to talk about because it was exciting to see. Ravens versus Lions. Lions have been labeled as the worst team in the league. I think that designation can go to the Jets for now. Jets and Giants are probably close first and second for the worst teams in the league. And then the Texans can be in there too. But the Lions have Jared Goff, who obviously they traded from the Rams for Matt Stafford. And he was supposed to be that guy that was kind of going to be lost in the shuffle. Not that good of a quarterback. A lot of people thought he's young, but he needed a new scene, basically. They wanted to see how he would do in a new team. Kind of like Julius Randle in a sense. And he's actually done really well. Like the team hasn't won a lot. Well, they haven't won at all. They're 0-3, but they kept a close game with Green Bay for the most part. They only lost by 7 to San Francisco in Week 1. They were down 24, and they scored like 20 in the final 2 minutes of the game. And then they lost to the Ravens by 2 today. So they've kept every game close against 3 of the top teams in the league. I thought that was impressive to see. But Jared Goff hasn't played too bad. He hasn't thrown a lot of turnovers. He just needs to make more plays. There's just no talent on the team. DeAndre Swift's a great running back, young, but the wide receivers, you got Khalif Raymond, Quentin Cephas, and T.J. Hawkinson. It's a lot of no-name people. Not no-names, but not really notable people. So that was rough to watch. But on the other end, too, Lamar Jackson was not good today. He threw 31 passes, and he completed 16 of them. So he was barely above 50% passing. That being said, though, he also had 60 rushing yards, and it was a manageable day. He had 280 passing yards, so he threw for a lot of yards. He usually throws for like 150, and he has a ton of rushing yards. So he was able to be a full-blown passer today. He threw for almost 300 yards, so that was impressive. And Mark Andrews got most of those catches, the tight end. He also did fumble once, but he recovered it, so worth noting. The thing that was really significant, though, is the Lions were up 17 to 16 in the final minute of the game, and Lamar Jackson got them to field goal range. Well, not field goal range, but a certain area on the field. The kicker, Justin Tucker, one of the best in the league, kicked a 66-yard field goal to win the game. 66 yards. I'm sorry, 55 yards is considered long. It's the NFL record, longest field goal ever as of today. 66 yards. The longest before that was 63 yards. And a lot of those guys who kicked the 63-yard field goals, I think one of them was Matt Prater. It usually happens in Denver because when you have a high altitude, there's no wind and the wind is thin, so you can go straight through, and your ball's going to go faster when you kick it or further. Yeah. So this was in Detroit though. So he kicked a 66-yard field goal. That's impressive. Shout out to him. I just wanted to bring that up. I thought that was really cool. I always like when records get broke, especially kickers, because they don't get a lot of attention. So that was fun to see. Long field goal be made. So I'm happy to see that. Good game. Before anyone says, "Oh, he says good game and everything," no, I didn't see every game, but I saw a lot of highlights from most of the games. So I at least have a gist of everything that happened. Now moving on to one of my favorite games, Saints versus Patriots. And you know why it's my favorite? Because the Patriots lost. So nothing better.
I'm just glad to know that you were never really a Tom Brady hater. You were really a Belichick hater.
Patriots hater all day. By the way, I think a great example to describe me is like Stephen A. Smith with the Cowboys is like me with the Patriots. So every chance I get, I'm going to flame them, even though they just blew us out last week. I'm going to flame them every chance I get. Mac Jones, who's played great as a rookie so far, threw the ball 51 times, which is a lot. Completed 30 of those passes, 270 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think those are his first 3 interceptions. I think that was his first interception. Yeah. So those 3 interceptions, he threw his first one of his career, and then he threw 2 more. So that was the first time he threw any interceptions, had any turnovers, and he threw 3 of them today. Saints defense played really well. Jameis Winston only threw 130 yards, but he had 2 touchdowns. So he was highly efficient. That was impressive. A lot of running, though, from Alvin Kamara, who played well as well. Not much rushing for the Patriots. Like I said, Saints defense, highly unrated. If you're a fantasy football person, I would say keep an eye on them if they're not already on a team. They've played very well. Outside of last week, which I think they lost, they killed Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay week 1. So overall, fun to see. Love watching the Patriots lose. See, we got a couple more games we can go through. I probably won't go through them all. I might miss 1 or 2. We'll talk about the Giants. Listen, I don't like the Giants, and I know it's a New York team. I should root for the New York team always. I have a lot of Giants friends too. It's not that I have like a hate for the Giants. I think I grew up with a lot of people flashing in my face how great the Giants were and how much the Jets sucked. So I think that helped, this evil storyline of me turning into like the biggest hater of all time with the Giants. So shout out to those people who just rubbed it in my face every time the Giants won. It's your own fault. But I got to watch that game and I got to watch all of it. And let me tell you, it was probably one of the worst games I've ever watched. And that's from both sides. The Falcons were awful. The Giants were awful. The defense was not that good. It was the quarterback play, like Matt Ryan, was awful. Statistically, he looked good, but all the throws he was making, he threw a wide open interception to Adoree Jackson in the end zone, and the guy dropped it. That was on the Giants. And so the next play, he threw a touchdown, and that ended up costing the Giants the game because Atlanta would come down and drive again and kick a field goal to win the game as time expired. So Young Hoku with a beautiful field goal, one of the best kickers in the league, takes the win. Daniel Jones, I will say, didn't look bad. I think the biggest thing that Giants fans could take from this is Saquon Barkley started to look like himself again because he tore his ACL. He's been looking a little bit off, but now I think he's starting to get into full form, and he looked good. Kenny Golladay also got a lot of attention, but the biggest problem is they lost two of their wide receivers. Darius Slayton was hurt, I think, early in the game, and then Sterling Shepard was hurt in the middle of the game as well. So you lost two of your top-tier receivers, and that's going to be a problem moving forward. I don't know the severity. So Falcons win 17-14. Now, we go to Washington versus the Bills. Washington football team. Bills won 43-21. Josh Allen, we were talking about him before the show started. Arguably the best quarterback from the 2018 draft. Between him and Lamar Jackson, if anyone was wondering. Baker looked good, though, too. Sam Darnold looks good now. He threw 4 touchdowns. He threw for 358 yards. Only had 11 incompletions on 43 attempts. So that's pretty impressive. Not much of a run game, but he really did spread the wealth with all the wide receivers. Cole Beasley got 11 receptions, but Emmanuel Sanders, Diggs, and Dawson Knox all got a lot of receptions, too. Big scoring from them. Taylor Heineke did not look that great. 200 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Now, I watched him against the Giants. He didn't look bad, but he looks very lost. I think that there's a lot of things that he kind of questions himself and in his decision making. I think he just needs more time to be more veteran and be able to get used to a lot of the in-game scenarios. So it'll take time, but it was pretty bad game for them. I mean, they have a good defense, so to give up 43 was very notable. I think there's one more game I want to cover. We'll cover 2 more games. Browns versus Bears. Justin Fields, debut, Ohio State quarterback. Major hype. He fell in the draft to I think it's 10th or 11th, and Bears traded up and drafted him. Andy Dalton was the starting quarterback. He got hurt. Justin Fields was supposed to sit the entire year and learn. So Justin Fields was forced to play. A lot of hype. Everyone said he was going to be so much better than Andy Dalton. How dare you bench him early on, make him play? Well, let me tell you, it sucks that I can't say I was right with evidence, but I said that he's going to need time to learn, and I think that there's going to be this longer learning curve than some quarterbacks. So the problem I had with him was when he came out of college, I believe the percentage was 87% of the time he threw it to his first progression. Meaning that when you snap the ball and you look around at all the wide receivers, the first person he looked at was throwing the ball 87% of the time. Now, that doesn't sound like a bad thing, but the thing is, a lot of the defense players will follow, where the quarterback's looking. So if you keep looking at the one guy and you keep telegraphing it to the same guy every time, they're going to catch on, they're going to cover it, they're going to be all over it. That was one of the things I didn't like. But he also is a great passer. He just needs to, I feel like, work out, different routes with different receivers and see what works for each one. He threw 20 passes. He completed 6 of them. And he had 68 passing yards in 4 quarters. 4 quarters. He played the whole game. And he had 3 rushes for 12 yards. For everyone that was like, oh, he could just rush the ball. He had 12 rushing yards. And 60 passing yards. I think that it is notable to say that they were very careful with him today. Any rookie quarterback that's on the field is going to have the running back do a lot of the work because they don't want to, put him into a bad scenario, lower his confidence if he does extremely bad. So they tried to put him in an easy scenario. So he didn't get a chance to do a lot. He wasn't getting plays to throw the ball deep down the field a lot, but not a great game. There's plenty of time for him to get better, though. They lost 26-6. Baker Mayfield looked great. Odell Beckham is back. First game back today. He had 80 receiving yards, and he had the most receptions second most receptions on the team, most receiving yards. Glad to see him back. Nick Chubb played well for them at running back. Browns win. They won 26-6, but it wasn't anything wrong. It was just expected. 2 good defenses.
I have a silly question.
Sure.
Was Odell Beckham drafted already? Like, was he there with Eli for those Super Bowl wins that the Giants got, or was he drafted after?
He was drafted after.
Oh, poor guy, no wins.
I know. Hey, the Browns look good this year. There's a chance that they're going to make the playoffs, I think. They're one of the best defenses in the league, and I think their offense is starting to figure it out. Kevin Stefanski is a phenomenal coach. He was the Vikings offensive coordinator 2 years ago, and he helped them a lot. So it's fun to see them work with this coach because I think that a lot of their play calling has gotten significantly better since the coaching change. And in regards to Justin Fields, listen, I'm not a hater. I had low expectations because I feel like he's one of the more raw prospects. As in, he's going to need a lot of working through practice and training to get used to in-game scenarios for the NFL, and that's a lot of players. I mean, Zach Wilson's looked awful the first few games. He had a couple of good plays. Trevor Lawrence, he's been shaky. It's just a learning curve, and you can't expect a player to just kill it in his first game and throw 6 touchdowns. I believe Peyton Manning led the league in interceptions in his first season as a rookie. So that's something to note. It takes time to get better. There's a lot of different things. When the Jets faced the Patriots last week, Zach Wilson threw 4 interceptions. But Bill Belichick has one of the best records in history against rookie quarterbacks. Because what he does is he likes to shift the defense constantly. So instead of running a stable defense where the quarterback might have seen it on film, he changes all these shifts. He does different schemes. He gives them every different look possible, so he can't possibly read everything perfectly because he's a rookie quarterback. He's got a lot to learn. So he would do all this stuff to throw him off, and it did throw him off. He lost. It's just unique to watch how these rookie quarterbacks get approached by the other team's defense. So I think Justin Fields will play again next week. I don't think Andy Dalton's healthy yet. But I do think that they're going to put him back on the bench once Andy Dalton's healthy, just so he can learn. And Bears fans, listen, the guy's got to get better. He needs time to get better. A veteran presence like Andy Dalton isn't a bad thing. Sure, you're probably not going to the Super Bowl this year or the playoffs, but you're learning a lot about your team and what is going to be added and what's going to be taken away. You're probably also losing your coach this year because he's probably going to get fired. So it's an interesting process for them. They're in a good rebuild, though. I think that things are looking up. Bengals beat the Steelers. Joe Burrow looked good. Big Ben looked awful. I won't go into too much detail. Burrow threw 3 touchdowns to interception. Big Ben threw 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. I want to note, though, that they have a rookie running back, the Steelers, Najee Harris, who was taken in the first round. He had 40 rushing yards, but get this, he had 102 receiving yards, 14 receptions, so he played really good today. Big Ben's notorious for throwing to his running backs. You have guys like Le'Veon Bell and James Conner who are always thrown to. So to see this rookie running back do really well was enjoyable. I tried to take him in fantasy football, but someone stole him from me, so we won't talk about that. Last game, Cardinals versus Jaguars. Cardinals were expected to win. Jags look awful this year. They got the number 1 pick, though, Trevor Lawrence. He threw a touchdown and 2 interceptions. He had 12 incompletions. He didn't look bad. He didn't look great. Very middle of the line. The running back played well for them. James Robinson had 90 rushing yards. And distributed the wide receivers pretty well with the amount of yards that they had. They each had like 60 to 50 yards. It's interesting to see, though, because their coach is a former college coach, and he hasn't really translated very well to the NFL thus far. So we'll see how that goes. He seems like he's getting better each week, though, because I don't think he had any business being within 12 of the Cardinals. I thought they were going to lose by 40. Kyler Murray looked okay. He didn't throw any touchdowns today. He threw 1 pick. It was all rushing today. Their running back had 2 rushing touchdowns. A lot of field goal kicking too. Matt Prater was 1 for 2, missed a field goal. He had 4 extra points though. Kyler Murray also had a rushing touchdown. Good week of football. Tonight we got Packers versus 49ers. Should be a great game, depending on which Packers team we see, whether it be week 1 or week 2. The one that actually plays or the one that doesn't show up. And then tomorrow we...
Watch out, Stephen A.
Yeah.
Bad man's going to be under a microscope.
And then tomorrow we got your game, which should be really good. Cowboys versus Eagles. Can't wait to see that.
Eagles fly. And once again, I think I said there on a previous episode or episode before, make sure you guys tune in to Undisputed on a Tuesday morning. Skip Bayless, major Cowboys fan. Shannon Sharp, old Shay Shay. He usually roots for the Eagles, so yeah. We're going to see some good bickering.
I'm excited for the matchup. I think Jalen Hurts has looked pretty good, better than I think most people think. Dak Prescott's been a top 5 to 6 QB.
Quarterback in the NFL.
Let's pump the brakes there, Chief. Dak Prescott, though, on the other hand, top 5 to 6 quarterback. He's looked phenomenal. Jalen Hurts has looked really good too, and I think a lot of people are starting to realize Jalen Hurts in college, he ran the ball a little bit himself, not too much. He didn't really have to because he's capable of both. He's a great passer too. But in college, when you have so many gifted people on a team like Oklahoma and you're facing other teams that are like no-name teams, it's very easy for him to just throw all game and destroy everyone. So it's fun to see him kind of enter the NFL and make good passes, but also be a good runner too at the same time. Because he's been, especially, who did they face week 1? They faced the Falcons, right? Yeah. And he had a couple rushes where he broke away for like 30, 40 yards. That was fun to see. I like seeing mobile quarterbacks. It's fun. I'm scared that they're going to get killed and they're going to get injured because they take so many hits, but it's fun to see when they do well. So I'm excited to see what he does because he's been getting like 160, 200 yards, and then he gets like 50 or 60 rushing yards too. So that should be a good game tomorrow. I'm going to say that the Cowboys win still. Sorry. But I think that Dak Prescott is just such an underrated passer. He's so good. And he's got an offensive line that's done pretty well. Except for Lael Collins. Forgot to mention this. I don't think you know this yet either. Lael Collins, one of their better players, he's an offensive tackle. I think he guards the right side. So that's the furthest guy on the right side of the offensive line, right tackle. Was suspended for 6 games for testing positive for a drug. I don't know what it was. But it gets better. He tried to bribe the guy doing the urine sample. And that went about as well as you would expect. We're hearing about the suspension, so it clearly didn't work. And we're moving forward. So he did lose one of his better offensive linemen for the next 6 weeks, but he still has a pretty good offensive line, so he should be fine.
Remember this, children. Money can't buy your way out of everything.
Yeah, no, it can't. And actually, quick thing to note too: Ezekiel Elliott has kind of been very bad this year so far. And his backup running back had 100 receiving or rushing yards. He played really well last week either way. So keep an eye on that. We'll see who gets more carries between Tony Pollard or Ezekiel Elliott because one's looked way better than the other. So an interesting thing to look at. I don't think I have anything else to add um, on the week recap. However, I will say quick. We'll go through quick over everything. Justin Tucker, great game winner. Um, Lel Collins tried to bribe the drug test collector. Trevor Lawrence has kind of opened it up this week. He's starting to throw a little bit deeper, not trying to play as safe, which I think is good. Um, Najee Harris looks great as rookie running back for the Steelers this week. And the Chiefs are human, so that's pretty much everything. I don't think I have any other stuff to add. Packers and 49ers just started. That's it.
Alrighty, now let's shift over to my domain. Well, I'll say our domain, where I can really contribute. The NBA, and this is perfect, everyone, because it's about that time of year again where the great, um, grandiose sports network that is ESPN once again somehow puts together a terrible list of
Oh
ranking
my!
players in the
I
NBA.
forgot this was gonna be a topic. It's so bad.
They never fail. Like, and it's to the point that the greatest ESPN representative, Stephen A, over the years always says he does not want to be like he wants to be um does not want to be included. ESPN do not put his name like in the same breath in the same group of the people who puts these lists together because even he says it's an embarrassment to the network and their basketball knowledge. I have the list of here, Evan, of the I have the top 25.
My
So
eyes were bleeding reading it.
what do you think I should do? Should I start from the top down to 25, or should I call out 25 to one?
I think if you can, you should try to go 35 to 1. Because I know there was a couple that were bad between 30s too.
Go 35.
I know you
Okay.
have to go to a
Uh,
separate link. I'm sorry.
yeah, yeah. How about this? Maybe I'll start at number one then, and while we're discussing, I'll look for
Yeah, that
35.
works.
Yeah, we'll just take breaks at like we'll start from every five. Well, we go from one to five, and we'll discuss that, and then go through to 10, and then
Hmm.
we'll go through to 25. Now, number one on the list, Kevin Durant, easy money sniper, KD Trey 5, the Durantula, whatever you want to call him. A guy who clearly needs to shrink his foot size, or else he would have, made
Yeah, he would have
maybe
been in the
maybe in the
finals.
NBA final, maybe even won a ring with the way Devin Booker played. But his now, I personally like over the years that Evan could even like support me on this since 2014. Me being a huge LeBron fan, I've always said the only person who I will acknowledge anybody like comparing to LeBron James in this league is Kevin Durant since back in 2014. So, and at this point, since he is younger than LeBron, and LeBron, like he's only gonna keep getting worse from here on. Durant, he appears to be still be sustaining his prime. I mean, with the team he's on, it doesn't. I mean, he's kind of shielded a bit, doesn't have the same amount of load. So if he is starting to like decline, because he's 33, we haven't noticed it yet. But so I have no problem with him being number one. Me personally, I would still have LeBron at one, but I respect Kevin Durant being there. I don't have a problem at all.
I'll give you my
Now,
opinion after 5.
yeah, all right. Number two now, the Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo, uh, NBA champion, two-time league MVP, and now Finals MVP. I'll be honest, this is where I had a problem. I am not convinced that Giannis Antetokounmpo is better than LeBron James yet. Not yet. Maybe this season could determine that for me, depending on like
Hmm.
how well we see LeBron play. But I had a problem with that. LeBron James now is at number three. Now, essentially, my big problem in the top three is you got to flip Giannis and LeBron. But it's 3-1 overall. It's not terrible. But now here's where it gets a bit blasphemous. Number four, the man who me and Evan both agreed is gonna be the face of the NBA one day. I say baby bird, Luka Doncic. Now, as you guys know, we're both huge fans of Luka. Definitely believe he'll be number one in the league one day, and has said his game is top five discussion worthy, but that's still not necessarily quite there yet because I do not believe that Luka should be ahead of the man who is number five on the list, um, Wardell Stephen Curry Jr., um, the chef. Now, Luka Doncic, I love him to death. He's not better than Steph Curry yet. Not yet. I don't believe he is as of yet. So I think that is blasphemous right there to put Luca ahead of Steph. If they had Luca at number five, I would have said, okay, the top five version is it's pretty legit. I mean, even still, it's probably the least blasphemous part of the list. But I would even say I don't think Luca should have the fifth spot yet.
So, okay, starting from one. I,
Mhm.
I, I think everyone on this podcast has heard me say it before. I think Kevin Durant should be number one. So, no problems there. I like it. Two and three. I don't hate it. I don't necessarily agree yet. I think that there could be the debate of recency bias. So, LeBron being hurt and Giannis going and winning a title is the reason why he's ahead of LeBron. And
I want to jump in there. Like, I'm glad you brought that up actually, because I forgot to mention that. If that's the logic people are saying, then I think that Giannis should be number one. Then
yeah, yeah, that's true. I think here's the thing: if we base the rankings off of, let's say, just the playoffs in general, I think I would still put Kevin Durant at number one over Giannis. And it wasn't that Giannis wasn't, Giannis was incredible. It's just when KD's out there scoring like 50 a game, and you just watch him play, and he's just dribbling up the court and just throws up a three or any mid range shot being double covered, and he just drills it. It's like what are you supposed to do to guard that? So I
he was
think
scoreless in overtime.
okay. I think he decided that he was going to be more of a team player in overtime, which I absolutely disagree with. I don't like that.
I don't want to hear any of that. You and I both agreed on the bad decision he made on that last shot.
Yeah, that was an awful shot. I'll give you that.
Yeah,
But the shot that he took to almost win the game
it's still a
before,
bad, still a bad shot. I didn't necessarily like either.
listen, Damian Lillard had a bad shot, and
Yeah, and I still do not
it's
agree
just
with it.
there's some guys in this game that are so cold that no matter who's in their face, their eyes are only on the rim, and they're gonna make it. No matter how covered they are. And when Katie shot that ball, you could tell it was gonna be an air ball. But like you, the second it came out of his hands, you're like, oh, this might go in. It was like once you realize it's in the air, everyone knows he was capable of making it. It was just he. I don't think he got enough spacing. He usually does just enough to get enough spacing. Whether he does kind of like the Dirk shot and goes off of 1 foot. Um, whatever he does, he usually creates just enough spacing to make it a shot where he at least has the slightest bit of space to make it look not so bad. But you could see there was so much. The guy was all over him guarding him. I forgot who was guarding him, but he was.
It was Drew Holiday for
Yeah, and
me.
he was getting smothered. So like, and when he went to go for that shot, I think he still faded away, but he was still being smothered, and it was like he didn't get any spacing from Drew Holiday. So I was worried the second he took the shot, but yeah, I think Kevin Durant's fair to put at one with the bias, recency bias, and even without it, I think I would put Kevin Durant at one. Number two, I don't mind Giannis there. There was 2 years ago I said Giannis is better than LeBron, and I was wrong, right? So we'll move past it. However, when a player gets hurt, I think it is fair to put other players ahead of him. And I'm not saying in a drastic way. Like I don't think people like Damian Lillard or I don't know Nikola Jokic should be put over LeBron because LeBron's hurt. But when you have a guy who goes and wins Finals MVP, um, and goes on this tear in the playoffs, and you have to compare him to someone who's injured, I think that you should give the tie to the person who isn't injured and just went through all of that. And I'm not, because I think LeBron could easily still be better than Giannis, and I probably still kind of believe that. It's just when you're hurt, it's hard to support all of the facts because listen, let's be real. There's a lot of LeBron haters. So the second that list up went up, if LeBron was 2 and Giannis was 3, all the comments would have been LeBron's washed. What? Why is Giannis 3? That's how all the comments would have been.
I think it would have been more so if we had him over KD, probably.
Yeah. And no matter what the list is, that's how it is too. Because even with Giannis at 2 and LeBron at 3, everyone's like, "What? LeBron's 3? That's unbelievable." No matter what, no one was going to be happy with the list.
Yeah, I think it's gotten to a point. You brought up an injury and stuff, but a part of why I know I'm still not putting Giannis above. I'm not accusing you of this, but I think people are almost forgetting that LeBron, yeah, he got injured, and you need to get games back and repetition to get back to 100%. We knew he was going to be like 100% in the playoffs, but on top of that, it was a domino effect. It's bad enough LeBron wasn't at his best and he was a bit out of shape.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Davis wasn't there at all.
Yeah,
pretty much as well. And on top of that, I don't think we need to talk about the rest of the Lakers players. I don't even think the Lakers team was there at all.
Yeah, and
so it was a lot of responsibilities on him on top of the fact he was hurt.
And the way I'm perceiving this ranking list is it's going into the season, so it's being based on this season. So the way I'm looking at it is I don't mind Giannis as much right now is because LeBron's coming off an injury. So if we're ranking just on this season alone, LeBron's coming off of an injury, while Giannis probably just had the best playoff performance of his life, all combined in every playoff game. So if we're going off of this season, I'm going to take the guy who just had the playoff season of his life over the guy coming off of an injury. So I don't hate it, but I think that people should tread lightly with that ranking because, well, LeBron has already taken it as motivation. We'll see how the season goes because I think that LeBron's going to play a very angry season where he's going to be playing pissed off because he feels like he has a point to prove, even though I think he's got 10 stars on his team. But everyone's like, "Oh, this is the retirement squad." I hate listening to that.
They have 3 stars on the team.
Oh, okay, but they're 12 players deep. They have
there's all-stars and role players.
Yeah, but almost I'll say maybe with the exception of like Trevor Ariza and who else isn't that good on the team? Trevor Ariza and
Taylor Horton-Tucker.
Maybe Taylor Horton-Tucker. Other than those two, every one of those guys on that team can start almost on any other team. That's how good they are.
Okay, all right. If you want to look at it like that, I thought you were about to say all-star level.
No, not all-star level. They're all, but almost all of them are starter material. Like Malik Monk, starter material. Kendrick Nunn, starter material.
No,
so like
even Dwight Howard and what's his name, DeAndre Ayton, they can still be starters. But still, it's hard to.
But you're only
really equate that to like how good the Lakers team overall, because there are some teams out there that it's not really hard to be a starter on.
But let's say you face a team, I don't know, like the Nuggets. Actually, Nuggets is a perfect example. So Jokic is going to be in there guarding AD, right? And let's say AD comes off to the bench for a rest, and Jokic maybe stays in for an extra 5 minutes because he feels like he has to tip the balance of the game.
Yeah.
He's going to be facing Dwight Howard right after, right?
And you're not gonna have to worry about guarding
or DeAndre Jordan. So
you're gonna have to worry about scoring on them, not guarding them.
But like my problem is, no matter what happens, whenever Jokic comes out and the starters come out for the Nuggets, that bench is going to get decimated by the Lakers bench. They have to play like 45 minutes to have a chance. And so they have to work themselves to death to beat the Lakers because of how deep their bench is. They have no problem swapping out guys throughout the game. And it could be, all 5 at once, or it could be just 1 or 2 guys at a time. They could just keep shuffling in and out. So it's really hard for teams to keep up with that. And I think that's a big advantage. I think the Nets have that too a little bit. Not as much. I don't think their bench is as deep, but they have...
It's their starters.
Yeah, but they have guys like... They still have guys like Patty Mills coming off the bench too, and Blake Griffin. So I think, Blake Griffin swaps between starting and not starting. So
But let's be real. The terror of the Nets is that we have three guys there that on their own they could go and drop 40 points.
You have three guys who are all in their primes.
Yeah,
I'll say KD's
and
still in his
and they're
prime.
and they're scoring machines.
Yeah, so they have the starting lineup advantage, but the Lakers have a massive bench advantage over almost anyone in the league. Actually, anyone in the league. They have the best bench in the league.
Yeah, probably. But still gotta point out the Lakers are probably still the worst perimeter shooting team in the league. Well, among
Yeah.
them.
Uh, Actually, real quick, I think a matchup that would be really interesting, worth watching: Hawks versus Lakers. I expect the Lakers to win, but like the Hawks have good matchups with guys like John Collins, Trey Young, Kevin Huerter, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and Clint Capella. But
They're too young.
they're still too young, but at least they have the energy to be able to play more minutes. And then you guys have like DeAndre Hunter and Danilo Gallinari coming off the bench. They have more depth than most players teams do on the bench. So I think that at least in terms of exhaustion, that team has the best chance of staying around with the Lakers.
To be honest, and it's sad, like both of us are gonna despite what I say, it might sound hypocritical. I'm about to disagree with what I say in a sense, just because of the evidence he gave us. But in terms of roster, yeah, I think you know where I'm going. The Sixers really should be the ones that match up best with the Lakers.
Oh my
Would you
gosh.
agree they should be? If you look at the roster, even including Ben Simmons, they should be.
Um,
They should be. Like I'm just thinking in terms of size and
their
like
starting squad, yeah. I don't know about their bench. I think their
they have
bench is
Andre
good.
they have Andre Drummond on on the bench now. You know how I felt about him, but I mean, if he's going out there facing in the second unit facing Dwight Howard or DeAndre Ayton, he'll
Uh,
hold his own.
Understand this. I don't think Andre Drummond is.
Oh, Dwight Howard, not DeAndre Ayton. I don't know why I just said that.
I don't think Andre Drummond is as bad as everyone's going to make him out to be. I think that he didn't fit with the Lakers at all, and I think everyone expected him to fit with the Lakers. But I think I'm not going to say he's going to be like what he was on the Pistons, but I think that he's going to be significantly better on a different team that's not the Lakers. Um, at least
Yeah, I
more
mean,
serviceable.
yeah. Well, I mean, with the Laker, part of that too is he didn't even get to play with LeBron and
Yeah.
AD like basically at all year.
Mm.
So yeah, it was just a collapse for them.
I think that the Knicks don't match up very well against the Lakers. They have a young team. They can kind of stay with them, like I said, in terms of exhaustion. But the Hawks are the better version of that, so that's why I said the Hawks. Now going back to the list, 4 and 5, Luca and Steph. I 100% agree with you. Steph should be 4, and to be honest with you, I don't think Luca should be top 5.
Yeah,
I think
not yet.
I think you could have guys like James Harden would be a legitimate discussion. Nikola Jokic and Damian Lillard are the three that come off to
And
mind.
well, I put Anthony Davis as the third one for me.
Oh yeah, AD would be up there too. Again, I think like I said, I think ESPN looks at the list and uses injury as a part of their ranking system because I think that's how LeBron got screwed. And I think AD is like 8 or 9, right? Something absurd.
I mean, I appreciate you trying to be nice to ESPN, but I think when we get further down the list, we might actually wonder if that's the truth.
Well, 18 really pisses me off. I already know that.
Yeah.
All right, let's. Do you want to do top 10 or
Yeah.
and then we'll do 10 through 25 next week? We'll have something
Yeah,
to talk about. Okay.
Yeah, let's do that. All right. Ready, everyone? Number 6, Nikola Jokic. All right. Just thinking of like the guys who we could potentially put ahead of him. I think this is a fair spot for him.
Yeah, I think this is actually a perfect
Yeah.
spot for him. I think 5 or 6
Yeah.
was the best spot to put him, and I don't mind
Yeah.
him being 6.
Oh, and per our one of our previous episodes, we haven't both agreed. We feel like Jokic is actually better than Luca right now, despite the hype on Luca Magic. But
Yeah, you
the
can't
six
always
is
just
just
have
that.
the
Yeah.
you can't always just have the stretch forward just always be the highest rated just because his position can be played in multiple positions. It's not
Essentially
fair.
not well. Go specifically guard play. People like seeing primary ball handlers.
Like, because he's getting put into that conversation with like KD, LeBron, and like Giannis, and being able to play multiple positions. And Giannis a little bit less, because Giannis used to play mostly small forward.
Yeah.
But now he's kind of shifted to power forward. But these stretch forwards get such a big advantage in terms of the way everyone talks about them because of their ability to play multiple different positions. But you got to understand when You got to evaluate the point guards and the centers equally, because just because they're a different height, and they play their actual position way better than most people in the league, you still got to acknowledge that. You just because someone can play multiple positions doesn't mean that they're significantly better than everyone else.
I'm not giving the point guards the benefit of the doubt for that. I'm gonna support the bigs in that regard,
Yeah,
because we know if anything the point guards and even shooting guards, if anything they get overhyped
yeah,
just because of how entertaining it is for them to dribble and whatnot.
yeah. I agree.
All right, and number 7 now, Joel Embiid. I mean, I feel like even that's not a bad spot. I mean, I'm glad they have Jokic ahead of him. Like, I feel like where you're gonna rank Jokic and Embiid. I mean, obviously Jokic ahead, Embiid should be somewhat near him.
I think they were just trying to establish how close it is between those two.
Yeah. All
Um,
right. And
and
then
and I do think Embiid's better than Anthony Davis. I know that's a bit controversial, but I do think he's better.
I don't.
I know. I would love to see Embiid with LeBron.
Yeah. I mean, but the thing is too, I think we have to remind ourselves, got like Embiid and Jokic, they're actual true centers. Like
Yeah,
Anthony Davis, he's a power forward who's capable of playing center. Like
yeah,
these
and
guys,
I think that's
they're bigger, they're stronger than him down in the post.
and
So
that's why I kind of look down on AD. It's not AD's fault, but he's being forced to play center a lot, and that kind of deteriorates his play a little bit. I think he's
it
still
it
a great
it,
player. I just wish
it
he was able to
depends
play
on
power forward.
yeah. I don't know. It's fine. It's just weird because, like, even back when he was on the Pelicans, when DeMarcus Cousins got injured and they had AD playing full time center, that's when we saw him putting up those 40 to 50
Yeah,
point games, that quadruple doubles and whatnot. I think it just puts him at more risk of injury because of like he's going against guys that are bigger and stronger.
yeah, I
But
agree.
he has been putting in work in the gym, so never know. No, no, number 8, Damian Lillard. No, 8. I mean, even that, it doesn't really bother me.
No, I like
Yeah,
Damian Lillard at 8.
yeah, yeah. I think the 6 to 10 spot overall is fair. Well, I'm gonna scratch that. Anthony Davis at number 9. I think that's too low for him.
Here's the thing: when I line up AD and Damian Lillard, I think one would do better on his own by himself than the other. I think Damian Lillard would carry a team better than AD would alone.
We can't even.
We
No,
can't measure it.
no,
We can't measure it.
no. I'm saying there's already evidence against it. Remember when DeMarcus Cousins was injured back in 2018, that Pelicans team against the Trailblazers, fully healthy. They had Damian, they had Nurkic, they had CJ. They were the 3rd seed. The Pelicans were the 6th seed. What happened? The Pelicans, that was the big upset of the year.
It was, but times change.
Damian is the same per player he was then.
He's better.
He's the same player he was then.
He's even more ice cold.
He's the same player he was then. I think you're falling into that guard bias right there.
I just think
Mr.
I think
Mr.
he
Big Man.
I think he generates more scoring, and I think that's important.
He's a primary ball handler, and yeah, I mean, essentially that's all he does is score.
I know, but I think that his scoring is more valuable than all of AD's assets.
No way. No way. Oh my gosh.
I'm not saying
That
as
is
I'm not
blasphemy.
saying for each thing, but I'm saying for winning in general.
No. Oh, no, hold on. Are you kidding me?
No,
Oh my god. Are you?
listen, I think that you look very highly on Anthony Davis.
Oh, I definitely do
I
because I
think
see the all-around skills that he brings out.
I
But
think
now
he's a phenomenal player. I think he's one of the best power forwards we've ever seen. But
I know, but what you say right there? I'm starting to think. Do you think that AD's not capable of scoring at the rate we used to see him do on the Pelicans?
I think he's capable, but we don't see it.
But why don't we see it? He playing alongside LeBron, another guy scoring like toward over 25 a game. Versus on the Pelicans, he was the only one.
I just think one's more clutch than the other.
Yeah, Anthony Davis, who's the one who hit the game winner, yell Kobe, huh? What happened to Damian Lillard whenever he went up against the Golden State Warriors? We
What
seen
happened when the
how
Golden
many?
State? Oh,
No. Okay, no KD, no KD, and also how many times have we seen Damian Lillard just flame out, just scoring like maybe like 15 points and shooting at a very low percentage um against like the Warriors in particular, and fails to close out
we're
games
talking
when
about
it was
one
winnable.
matchup.
Yeah,
What?
but I'm just that's because that's the match they end up losing because they get out the first round and lose in the second round. That's when the story with the Trailblazers, and then once again when he will match up against the Pelicans, like I'm not looking. Look, when well, I'm not talking about specifically game winning shot. If that's what you think, like there, I still say Damian. Despite that one that 80 hit, I still say Damian. But when I talk about clutch, I'm also talking about just being consistent. Like even in closing moments, we seen Damian go hot and cold.
Yeah, but we've also seen AD throw up 5 point games
Have we not seen that from Damian?
for like 10 point games.
Oh God.
Listen, it's not a roast towards AD or anything. I just think that Damian Lillard is closer to Steph Curry than I think Steph Curry's way like I think Steph Curry's better. I think that's let me just get that out of the way. But I think Damian Lillard is closer to Steph Curry's caliber than most people give him credit for, which also tells me that I think that he's better than AD because he's closer to Steph Curry.
Hold on. Now I just find this hilarious because I've been saying about that about Damien for the past couple years, but people didn't want to hear it without
I
just
agreed with you.
evaluating
I
like
think we
the
argued to
skill
this.
set. Yeah. But what's it called? But AD, he is still there with them, definitely. You know, and it's funny because if he was still on the Pelicans and putting up those numbers, I doubt you would have the doubt in your mind right now.
Probably right.
So, so no. Right now, you're condemning him for being in a winning situation.
I'm condemning him for having some non-factor games in a winning situation.
Non-factor game. He's the man who felt that he should have been the Finals MVP for the Lakers when they won.
Yeah, but he had like this year, he had a bunch of games where he was not
All
himself.
right, all right, all right, all right. If you're looking solely at this year,
That's
then
all I'm
fine. Because
evaluating it on.
all right, okay, all right.
Yeah,
No,
I'm
that's
not. Yeah,
fair. That's
if
fair because even I said I was disappointed with him this year.
yeah, that's all I am.
Okay,
I'm not.
all
If we
right,
were evaluating years before, I think there's a plenty of conversation to say AD is better than Damian Lillard. But I'm saying as of this year.
all right. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair. All right.
All right, number 9 is
No,
AD, right? So
yeah.
what's number 10?
Number 10 is James Harden.
James Harden is just so much better than all of them.
He's too low. He's too low.
He
What's it
is too
called?
low.
Yeah, if anything, he should be a number 5.
Everyone forgot, and listen, for the people watching here, I am a James Harden hater, and I am saying this. The man is a phenomenal scorer, and then this year he takes his talents to the point guard position and shows that he's probably a top three. No, he's definitely a top 3 point guard in the NBA behind Lillard and Curry. And has this phenomenal distribution ability as well as shooting ability. With even without Kyrie or well, Kevin Durant was on the floor for the most part, but without Kyrie even on the floor, he looked like a phenomenal point guard, and that was
Well,
fun to watch.
I'll actually go beyond it because you say behind them. Like, if we're gonna like evaluate pure point guard ability, let's just look at it as a pure distributor. Do you not believe that Harden's a better pure distributor than both of them, Steph and Damian?
Yeah, I would say he is.
Yeah, I felt he is even back in Houston. Not only did he have the assist number to back it up, cause one Damian is a pure scorer. Is Steph Curry? He's just similar. Like, he's a better playmaker than Lillard, but I don't consider Steph like that elite distributor. What
Yeah,
he does is like create space, like movement without the ball. But in terms of like handling the ball and distributing and creating plays like directly, like the way like LeBron and those guys would, he's way superior to them.
Um, and I want to say, listen, with James Harden, I cannot stand the way he plays basketball in regards to drawing fouls 24/7. But as much as I hate that, it's him having this vast understanding of the game and the way it's played, and him abusing that to the highest potential to score as many points as possible to win games. So as much as I can't stand that type of play, it works, and he has found a way to manipulate the scoring ability within the game. So I think that takes a lot of credit, intelligence too. I think that he knows the way to play with the refs around him, and he knows how to get foul calls when he needs it.
But still, we're just talking about his Rockets days. Because honestly, on the Nets, he wasn't even really doing that that
I
much.
know.
He just literally, I just acted as the third scoring guy, and pretty much if whenever Kyrie like wasn't kicking it, because we know KD was always gonna do him.
Yeah. I mean, that's all I got to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you were almost getting a bit blasphemous with Anthony Davis. I'm
It's
not gonna
okay.
lie. I part of me, there is a part of me that thinks that there's an Anthony Davis hater in you right now.
No, there's a Lakers hater in me.
So hold up. Now, so if Anthony Davis wasn't on the Lakers, may, maybe you would like him a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't know if it would change my ranking, but I would like him more. I mean, I
But
still like him. I don't, I like him more than I like LeBron, and I like him more than a lot of players in the league. But I admire the big man position a lot, so that makes me like him a lot too. But I don't like the way the Lakers run their organization. I don't like that. Well, it's kind of like the Yankees, and I'm a Yankees fan, so it doesn't look good on my part. I mean, Yankees get to sign all these players just because of their team name, and that's the way the Lakers work. These guys would be getting paid, 20 million more on any other team. Half these bench players, and they're signing veteran minimums to play with LeBron and the Lake Show and be a part of the Lakers, and I can't stand that. I that's the one time where I actually want people to chase money, not a championship, because now it's getting to this point where you have a team of 12 great players um, that are so well rounded and by far way better than any other team in the league, except for maybe the Nets just because they're
Oh,
starters.
okay, hold on. Chill on the 12 great, well-rounded part. I'm not gonna go that far.
I mean well rounded as in they all have a contribution to what that team needs. So like
Okay,
Carmelo's not a great defender, but he brings scoring to that team and shooting. Whereas
okay.
Kendrick Nunn brings, I would say, speed and some distribution in there. It's just they all contribute a certain asset that's valuable to the Lakers.
Hey, but you know what? You know who you should really blame for that? Blame Magic Johnson, blame Kobe, blame Shaq, blame all of them for making the Lakers such a prestige franchise.
I
Blame the
blame
blame the Bus family.
I blame LeBron.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
I'm saying,
it really is like the Brady effect for football. Everyone wants to go play for Tom Brady. Everyone wants to go play for LeBron James. So
but it's just funny how the narrative flipped. I recall when he was on Cleveland, nobody wants to play with LeBron anymore.
I know. I think the Lakers contributed to that. It's just
Yeah, again, which I'm telling you, the legacy of the LA. First of all, they drew LeBron in himself.
yeah, that bothers me.
It's still because of the clout that they developed over the years.
He should have went to the Minnesota Timberwolves.
No, LeBron don't like the cold weather.
One of the most low key teams in the league.
Yeah, deal with Carl Anthony Towns. Jimmy Butler didn't want to deal with that mess.
No, he doesn't need to deal with that soft boy. All right. You want to wrap it up?
Yeah. First I'm gonna say after this season, you're gonna put some more respect on Anthony Davis's name because I don't know. I think you're falling into that trap. You're one of those guys who think the guy's in a different situation and his stats look a bit different. You think their skills wither away into the daylight, but yeah, I think that's gonna change this year. Um, I also forgot to say in the intro, I want to thank my boy back home, Armani, aka JKD Kozard, for providing us with a cool theme song for SEVelocity. He's helping take the show to the next level.
Your hero.
Again, Yeah, his name's the artist JKD Codes Art. Support him.
All right. Without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy Monday Night Football, Cowboys versus Eagles. By the time this video is out, Packers versus 49ers should be already done with. Packers are up 10-0 as we speak. Probably going to watch that game after this. Hope you all have a wonderful week filled with sports and happiness and joy, family, friends. Hope everything is well, and have a good night.
To me and you, I want you, I love you. Can I touch you, I rub, let me love you. Put my dreams to the side, only